Human, will you have children with me? The question was asked with such calm seriousness that for a moment I genuinely thought my translator implant had malfunctioned. I blinked at the tall woman standing in front of me, crimson fog curling slowly around her ankles like living smoke. Her silver eyes glowed faintly in the dim forest light, and she stared at me with an intensity usually reserved for very dangerous predators or very awkward marriage proposals. I said intelligently. I feel like I missed several important steps before that question. The alien woman tilted her head slightly, studying my face as if my reaction itself were some kind of fascinating experiment. Her skin was pale, almost luminous against the dark red foliage of the forest, and thin veins beneath it shimmered faintly like liquid starlight. Two elegant ridges curved subtly above her temples, giving her otherwise human-like face a strange, regal sharpness. Behind her, the forest of Virelith breathed quietly. The trees were impossibly tall, their bark dark and glassy, their leaves glowing faintly like embers suspended in the air. The entire world seemed bathed in shades of crimson and violet, the light of the distant star filtering through a perpetual mist that rolled slowly across the ground. It was not the kind of place where a cargo pilot from Earth expected to receive a marriage proposal, especially from an alien vampire. I rubbed my forehead and looked around the clearing again, half expecting hidden cameras or some elaborate practical joke. Okay, I said slowly. I'm going to assume this is either a translation issue, or I hit my head harder during the crash than I thought. Her expression didn't change. You did not hit your head, she replied calmly. Your cranial structure appears undamaged. Great, I muttered. Then the other option is worse. 3 hours earlier my day had been wonderfully boring. I had been flying my small cargo freighter, the Wayward Finch Asterisk, through the outer shipping lanes near the Virelith sector, hauling medical nanofilters and spare reactor coils to a mining colony that smelled like ozone and bad decisions. Nothing glamorous, nothing heroic. Just the life of Daniel Carter, independent pilot, occasional smuggler of extremely legal goods, and proud owner of a ship that made concerning noises whenever the engines went above 80%. Then the storm hit, not a weather storm, an electromagnetic anomaly the size of a small moon. Every warning system in the cockpit had screamed at once before the entire dashboard went black. The Wayward Finch had dropped out of orbit like a brick, and somehow, against every statistical probability in the galaxy, I survived the crash. Now here I was, standing in a glowing alien forest on a planet I absolutely had not planned to visit, being asked a deeply personal question by a mysterious alien woman who looked like royalty and danger combined into one very elegant nightmare. So, I said, trying to keep my voice casual, just to clarify, you're serious about that question? Yes. No hesitation, no embarrassment, just calm certainty. I exhaled slowly. That's concerning. She stepped closer. The movement was smooth and graceful, almost silent despite the thick layer of crimson leaves beneath her feet. The faint glow beneath her skin pulsed softly with each step, and the air around her carried a cool metallic scent, like rain mixed with something older. She stopped less than a meter away. Up close her eyes were even stranger, not just silver. They moved slightly in the light like liquid mercury reflecting distant stars. You are the human called Daniel Carter, she said. That made me freeze. How do you know my name? I observed your vessel during its descent. Observed, I repeated. Lady, my ship was on fire. Yes, and you just watched. Her expression softened slightly. We ensured your survival. I stared at her. You're telling me someone caught my falling spaceship. In a manner of speaking. That was when the forest around us suddenly moved. Dozens of tall figures emerged silently from the crimson mist between the trees. Every single one of them looked similar to the woman in front of me, pale, luminous skin, silver eyes, tall, elegant frames. But their expressions were colder, more alert, and every single one of them was armed. Their weapons looked like curved metallic staffs humming with faint violet energy. They surrounded the clearing in seconds, not aggressively, but definitely not casually either. Several of them stared at me with open curiosity. One of them even leaned slightly toward another and whispered something in a language my implant struggled to translate. So small. Hey, I said automatically. I heard that. A few of them blinked in surprise. Apparently humans weren't supposed to respond to alien whispering. Great. Fantastic first impression. Then something happened that made the atmosphere shift instantly. One of the armored figures stepped forward, dropped to one knee, and lowered his head toward the woman standing in front of me. Princess Elthara, he said. The rest followed immediately. Within seconds, every single armed alien in the clearing was kneeling. My brain took a moment to process that. Then I looked slowly back at the woman who had just asked me the most uncomfortable question in my life. "You're a princess." "Yes, of course you are," I sighed. Because apparently crashing on alien planets automatically involved royalty now. Princess Elthara turned her silver gaze back to me, completely unfazed by the soldiers kneeling around us. "If it helps," she said thoughtfully, "this is also unusual for me." "Oh good," I said. "I'd hate to think this happens to you every week." A few of the kneeling soldiers looked confused again. One of them glanced at another as if asking whether human sarcasm was a weapon. Honestly, sometimes it was. The princess stepped even closer, her gaze focused entirely on me now. "You believe my question was a joke," she said. "Well, yeah. It was not. I gathered that part." She studied me quietly for a long moment. Then she asked the question again. "Human Daniel Carter, will you have children with me?" Behind her, several of the armored aliens visibly stiffened. One of them even inhaled sharply. Apparently that sentence carried a lot more weight than I understood, which raised a very important question. "What exactly happens," I asked slowly, "if I say no?" The reaction was immediate, not hostile, but definitely tense. Several of the guards exchanged worried looks. One of them actually whispered something that my implant translated as, "He is considering refusing." Princess Elthara, however, remained perfectly calm. Her glowing silver eyes held mine steadily. "You are free to answer honestly," she said. "That's reassuring." "It should be." I scratched the back of my neck and glanced around at the kneeling alien soldiers, the glowing forest, and the princess who had apparently decided I was boyfriend material 5 minutes after watching my spaceship explode. "Look," I said carefully, "I feel like we skipped the part where you explain *Y. Her eyes softened slightly. "Because your blood is extraordinary." I blinked. That's either a compliment or the worst sentence I've heard today. "You do not understand yet," she said quietly. "Yeah," I agreed. "That part is becoming very clear." The mist between the trees thickened as the crimson light of the alien sun dimmed slightly overhead. Princess Elthara looked up at the sky for a moment, then she looked back at me. "Come with me," she said. "To where?" "My home." I hesitated. "Your home is in a house." "No, what kind of home then?" She turned slightly and gestured toward the distant forest horizon. Far beyond the glowing trees, something enormous shimmered faintly in the red mist. At first I thought it was a mountain. Then the light shifted, and I realized I was looking at a colossal alien structure rising above the forest canopy like a crystal palace carved from starlight. A city, an entire city hidden in the forest. I slowly looked back at her. "Okay," I said, "before we go any further, I need to ask one more thing." "Yes, if I say yes to your question." She waited patiently. "Does that automatically make me alien royalty?" For the first time since we met, Princess Elthara smiled. A small, amused, dangerously beautiful smile. "Yes," she said. Behind her, several of the kneeling soldiers looked absolutely horrified. Which was exactly the moment I realized something important. Whatever was happening here, I had just accidentally become the most politically dangerous human in this entire star system. The city in the distance grew larger with every step, and the closer we got, the less it looked like something that should physically exist. From afar, it had resembled a palace. Up close, it was something far stranger. Massive towers of translucent crystal rose from the forest canopy like frozen lightning, each structure connected by glowing bridges that curved through the air. Dim crimson light flowed inside the crystal walls like slow rivers of energy. Ships hovered silently between the towers, sleek black vessels shaped like curved blades, and every few seconds streaks of silver light shot upward into the clouds as smaller craft launched into orbit. An entire alien civilization hidden in the forest, and I had crash-landed directly in their backyard. "Well," I muttered quietly, staring up at the massive structures above us. "That explains why my insurance company is never going to believe this report." Princess Elthara walked beside me with calm, effortless grace, the glowing veins beneath her pale skin pulsing faintly with each step. Around us, the armored soldiers moved like shadows, forming a silent escort through the crimson forest. None of them took their eyes off me. I couldn't blame them. I probably looked ridiculous. A human cargo pilot in a half-burned flight jacket, boots covered in alien mud, walking casually beside what was apparently their princess. One of the soldiers on my left leaned slightly toward another. "That is him." "Yes. He appears fragile." I glanced over. I heard that too. The soldier stiffened immediately, clearly not expecting the human to understand him again. I shrugged. My translator implant is working overtime today. The other soldier studied me more carefully now. His silver eyes narrowed slightly, and I noticed his pupils were shaped differently from Elthara's, long vertical slits like a reptile S. Fragile, he repeated slowly, but still alive after atmospheric impact. Yeah, I said, I'm surprised about that too. The group ahead of us slowed as we reached the edge of the forest, and that was when the city revealed its full scale. The trees ended abruptly at a massive open platform carved into dark stone. Hundreds of alien figures moved across it, tall, pale, elegant beings in dark robes or sleek armor, their luminous skin glowing softly beneath the crimson sky. And every single one of them stopped when they saw us. More specifically, when they saw me, whispers spread instantly across the platform. Human. Impossible. That is the one. I looked sideways at Elthara. Okay, I said quietly. I feel like I'm walking into a situation. You are, she replied calmly. Good, I just wanted to confirm that. As we stepped onto the platform, the crowd parted slowly. Alien civilians stared openly now, some with fascination, some with clear suspicion. Others looked at me the way people on Earth look at a shark inside an aquarium tank, curious, but cautious. A group of younger Noctari stood near the edge of the platform, whispering among themselves. One of them leaned forward slightly. That is a human. Yes, he is smaller than expected. Hey, I said again. A few of them jumped in surprise. Apparently humans hearing alien gossip was becoming a theme today. Princess Elthara continued forward without slowing, her presence commanding immediate respect. Every Noctari we passed bowed their heads slightly, and every single one stared at me after. You know, I said under my breath, I usually charge extra for public appearances. You are handling this better than expected, Elthara said. That's because my brain hasn't fully processed the situation yet. We reached a massive archway carved from black crystal. Guards stood on both sides, taller than the others, wearing ornate armor that shimmered faintly with red energy. Their weapons were far more intimidating than the staffs carried by the forest soldiers. They crossed their weapons when they saw us. Not in aggression, but in formality, one of them spoke, Princess Elthara. His gaze shifted toward me, then narrowed, the human. Yes, she replied simply. The guard studied me carefully. His silver eyes scanned my body, the small blinking light of some kind of biological scanner moving across my chest and arms. His vital signs are stable, the guard murmured. That is generally the goal, I said. The guard ignored the comment, but the second guard looked faintly amused. Then the first guard asked the question that made the atmosphere shift instantly. You intend to present him to the court? Yes. The guard's expression tightened slightly. The council will not approve. That is not their decision, Elthara replied calmly. A quiet ripple of tension passed through the soldiers behind us. Even I could feel it. Politics. Alien politics. Fantastic. The guard slowly lowered his weapon. As you wish, Princess. The massive crystal doors behind them slid open silently, and I immediately understood why everyone had been so tense. The chamber beyond was enormous. A circular hall carved entirely from luminous crystal, with towering pillars rising toward a domed ceiling that glowed faintly like a night sky filled with artificial stars. Rows of tall alien figures stood along the outer walls. Dozens of them, all watching us, all clearly important. Some wore elegant robes decorated with metallic patterns that pulsed with faint energy. Others wore armor far more intricate than the soldiers outside, but every single one had the same luminous skin, the same silver eyes, and the same intense focus on the human walking beside their princess. I leaned slightly toward Elthara. Let me guess, I whispered. Yes. This is the court. Yes, I really should have stayed in my crashed spaceship. We walked into the center of the chamber, and the whispers began immediately. That is him. He looks ordinary. Impossible. A human within the blood court. One of the figures stepped forward from the elevated platform at the far end of the chamber. He was older than the others. His skin still glowed faintly, but thin lines crossed his face like cracks in polished marble. His silver eyes were sharper, colder, and his long dark robe flowed behind him like liquid shadow. When he spoke, the entire room fell silent. Princess Elthara. She stopped walking. So it is true, the elder continued. You have brought the human. Elthara met his gaze calmly. Yes. The elder turned his attention to me. The silence stretched uncomfortably. Then he slowly walked down the steps toward us. Each movement measured, careful, like he was approaching something potentially dangerous, which, to be fair, I probably was from their perspective. He stopped 2 meters away from me, close enough that I could see faint glowing patterns moving beneath his skin. He studied my face for a long moment, then he asked quietly, "This is the one?" "Yes," Ilthera replied. The elder circled me slowly, not threatening, but intensely curious. "You are Daniel Carter." "That's me. You survived atmospheric entry in a damaged vessel. Apparently, you show no signs of genetic degradation." I frowned. "Should I?" He ignored the question. The elder stopped directly in front of me, his silver eyes locked onto mine. And for the first time since arriving on this planet, something in the room changed. His expression shifted just slightly. Curiosity turned into something else, something closer to shock. "Impossible," he whispered. The entire chamber went silent. Ilthera stepped forward slightly. "What is it?" The elder slowly reached out. Before I could react, his hand hovered just above my chest. A faint pulse of red light passed through the air between us. Then his eyes widened. For the first time since entering the room, the calm ancient alien looked genuinely unsettled. He stepped back, staring at me. "Princess," he said slowly, "this human." The entire court leaned forward slightly, waiting. "His blood signature." The elder's voice dropped almost to a whisper. "Belongs to the first line." The chamber erupted instantly. Shocked voices filled the hall. "That cannot be. The first line vanished millennia ago." "Impossible." I looked around at the suddenly panicking alien nobles, then back at the elder. "Okay," I said. "I feel like I just became extremely important for reasons nobody has explained yet." The elder stared at me with a mixture of awe and disbelief. Then he said the most confusing sentence I had heard all day. "Human," his voice trembled slightly, "your blood should not exist." For a long moment no one in the chamber spoke. Dozens of silver eyes stared at me as if I had just grown a second head. I looked slowly around the crystal hall, at the whispering nobles, the tense guards, and the ancient alien elder who still looked like someone had just rewritten the laws of physics in front of him. Then I rubbed the back of my neck. "Okay," I said carefully. "When you say my blood shouldn't exist, is that like a medical condition or more of a political problem?" The chamber remained silent. Then somewhere in the back, one of the younger nobles actually let out a quiet, shocked laugh before quickly covering their mouth. The elder didn't laugh. He stepped closer again, his eyes still locked on me with a mixture of fascination and disbelief. "You carry the genetic resonance of the first line," he said slowly. "That lineage vanished over 6,000 cycles ago." "I'm going to be honest," I replied. "That sentence raises more questions than it answers." Princess Ilthera stepped beside me. Unlike the rest of the court, she didn't look shocked. She looked relieved. "I told you," she said softly to the elder. "I felt it the moment he entered our world." The elder turned toward her. "You felt a resonance strong enough to bind the royal bloodline, and you chose him." "Yes," without consulting the council. "Yes," several nobles behind him began whispering again, their voices sharp with tension. "A human. This would change everything. The Empire cannot allow." Silence. The elder didn't shout. He didn't need to. The single word cut through the chamber like a blade. The whispers stopped immediately. He looked back at me again. "Human Daniel Carter," he said, "you do not understand what your existence means." "That makes two of us," I replied. He slowly turned and gestured toward the enormous crystalline dome above us. The artificial stars within it dimmed slightly as some unseen system responded. "Long before your species built its first cities," he said, "the galaxy was ruled by the first line." The chamber listened in silence. They were the original architects of genetic civilization. Every advanced species in this quadrant carries fragments of their biological design. His gaze returned to me, even ours. I blinked. "Wait. So you're saying some ancient alien civilization basically helped design life in this part of the galaxy?" "In simple terms, yes. That seems like an important detail humanity somehow missed." "They vanished before your world even developed written language." I exhaled slowly. "Right, of course they did." The elder continued studying me carefully. "For millennia, we believed the first line was completely extinct. But the genetic marker within your blood proves otherwise." I looked down at my arms. Same arms I had my entire life. Same boring human blood. Except apparently now it came with ancient alien royalty DLC. "That's a lot to process," I admitted. "It is more than that," the elder said. "It changes the future of this empire." One of the armored nobles stepped forward sharply. "Which is exactly the problem." The entire chamber turned. The noble who had spoken wore dark ceremonial armor etched with glowing crimson lines. His expression was cold, calculating. Binding the royal bloodline to a human would destabilize every political alliance in this sector, he said. His silver eyes moved to me with clear distrust. The other empires will see it as weakness. A murmur of agreement spread through part of the court. He turned to Elthara. You cannot unite the Noctari throne with an outsider. He is not an outsider, she replied calmly. He carries the blood that created us. That claim is based on a single genetic scan. The noble stepped closer, and even if it is true, he is still human. The word human carried an unmistakable tone. Inferior, primitive, temporary, I sighed. You know, I said, this conversation would hurt my feelings if today hadn't already been completely insane. A few nobles looked confused again, but the armored noble ignored me completely. The council will not allow this union, he said firmly. Princess Elthara didn't raise her voice. She didn't threaten him. She simply stepped forward. And the temperature in the room seemed to drop. You misunderstand something, she said quietly. The noble frowned. What? I did not bring Daniel Carter here to ask the council's permission. The room went very still. I brought him here, she continued, because the future of our species depends on him. That statement hit the chamber like a shockwave. The elder slowly nodded. She is correct. Several nobles turned toward him in disbelief. You support this? I support survival, the elder replied calmly. Every generation our blood grows weaker. Our children are born less frequently. The royal line itself stands on the edge of extinction. His gaze moved back to me. And yet this human carries the exact genetic resonance we believed lost forever. The armored noble clenched his jaw. You would gamble the Empire on a cargo pilot who crash-landed by accident. I raised a finger. To be fair, it was a very impressive crash. No one laughed this time. Princess Elthara turned toward me, and for the first time since this whole situation started. Her calm expression cracked slightly. There was emotion there now, real emotion, hope. Daniel, she said quietly. The way she said my name made the entire chamber lean forward slightly. Everything you have heard today is true. My people are slowly dying. She stepped closer, and your blood may be the only thing capable of saving us. Her silver eyes searched mine, but I will not force you. The room went silent again. You are free to leave our world, she continued softly. If you wish, we will repair your ship and return you to your people. The court seemed stunned she had even offered that option. But if you stay, her voice lowered slightly, you will not simply be my mate. You will become part of the future of two civilizations. I looked around the massive crystal chamber again. Dozens of alien nobles watching, some hopeful, some furious, some afraid. I thought about my broken cargo ship. My quiet, boring life hauling reactor coils between mining colonies. Then I looked back at the alien princess who had walked out of a crimson forest and asked me the most ridiculous question in the galaxy. You know, I said slowly, when I woke up this morning, I was mostly worried about my fuel bill. A few confused nobles exchanged glances. I took a breath. Then I looked directly at Elthara. Okay, I said. I have one condition. The entire chamber leaned forward. Even the hostile nobles seemed curious now. Elthara tilted her head slightly. What condition? If I'm going to become alien royalty. I gestured vaguely toward the enormous crystal palace around us. I want a better spaceship. For 2 seconds the chamber was completely silent. Then something unexpected happened. Princess Elthara laughed, not a polite royal chuckle, a real laugh, bright, warm, alive. The sound echoed softly through the crystal hall. Several nobles looked absolutely shocked. Apparently their princess didn't laugh very often. She stepped closer and gently took my hand. Her skin was cool, but the glow beneath it pulsed warmly. Human Daniel Carter, she said. Yes. You may have the finest ship in the Empire. Behind her, the elder smiled faintly. Several nervous nobles began whispering again, and the armored one looked like he had just realized the balance of power in the entire sector had shifted. I looked around the alien court one last time, then back at the princess. Well, I said, I guess the answer to your original question is. I squeezed her hand slightly. Yes. High above us, beyond the crystal dome, the stars of the galaxy burned quietly. And somewhere out there, the future of two species had just changed forever.